Hey, what's up? John Sonmez here from simpleprogrammer.com. So I got a question about self-evaluations at work. This is always a good topic. I hate these self-evaluations, but Josh says, we have evaluations coming up at work which involve a self-evaluation. How should you go about evaluating yourself? Giving yourself a low ranking would not be good, of course, because then you're saying that you don't believe you're actually doing well at the job. But if you give yourself the highest rankings on everything, it feels like you may come off as arrogant. This is the best approach to give more rankings in the middle area, 3 to 4. So there's a couple of ways you can go with this. Here's what I would recommend. Well, okay. You know if you suck. I mean, if you suck, you can't do this, right? If you're not really working really hard and you're not really good and you're not doing a good job, don't give yourself super high ratings. It's not going to be a good idea. But if you're doing a good job, if you're doing a decent job, if you really don't need to hang your head in shame, if it's not going to be like ridiculous, then I would recommend giving yourself the highest ratings on every single thing except for one thing. Now, I know that this is going to seem a little bit weird, and why would you do that? And will that seem arrogant, and won't your boss say something about that? But here's the thing. You're being asked to evaluate yourself. So it's like this. It's like someone gives you a knife, and they're like, okay, cut off as much of your hand as you would like. Well, how much do you cut off? Well, I cut off, I don't know about you, but I'll trim my fingernails, okay? I'm cutting off 0 of my hand, okay? When someone gives you a self-evaluation, I think it's a really unfair thing to do because you're being asked the only thing that can come of it is that you're hurting yourself, right? So if you're gonna ask me to evaluate myself, I'm gonna say I'm a 10. I'm a 10. Right? You're gonna give me a pay increase or determine my future based on that. I'm gonna do what's best for me. I'm always gonna optimize for that. And so, like I said, unless it's absolutely ridiculous, where you know that you're just falling behind and you're not doing a good job, then don't give yourself perfect ratings. Let's be realistic here. Then that's just dumb. In that case, give yourself in the middle of the road. But give yourself the benefit of the doubt, right? Wherever you're at, give yourself higher than that because you're being asked to evaluate yourself. Now, it's totally different if someone else evaluates you, right? And it's totally different for you to make your own evaluation of your own skills, right? I did this video about looking in the mirror and honestly evaluating yourself, and I think that's important, right? Taking a personal assessment, looking in the mirror, right, for your purpose. But in this case, they're going to use what you put down on this paper is going to be used against you. So you want to make sure that you don't. I think a lot of people make mistakes and they give themselves low ratings. And you got to think about it this way too, right? If you don't believe in yourself, why should I believe in you? If you think that you are, on a scale of 1 to 10, that you're a 7, then that tells me something about you, right? Be confident. Be arrogant if you have to. I don't think it's arrogance is when you project confidence that you don't have. Actually have the confidence. Be like, no, look, I'm putting 10 for everything, and I'm putting 9 for one thing. Okay, just to make it so that I didn't put 10 for everything. And when your boss says, hey, why did you really think you're that good at all that stuff? So yeah, I do. You asked me to evaluate myself, and that's what I think. I'm 100% confident in my abilities, and that and it's not because that I'm necessarily the best. It's because I'm confident in my ability to improve and to continually improve, and I give myself a 10. Okay, I did a video on giving yourself a 10. Sometimes you need to give yourself a 10. You don't do it often enough. But the other way to think about this too is right. I talked about this a lot of times. Is that you want to do things that have unbounded upsides, and you don't want to do things that have unbounded down. That only bad can come from it. And this is one of those situations where, if you give yourself a lower rating, right? If you look at this on a scale, the lower the rating that you give, if you give yourself a lower rating than you deserve, only bad can come from that. Never is your boss going to say, hey, you gave yourself a 3, but I think you should be worth a 10. It's never going to happen, right? You're going to influence that person, and he's going to decide that you're worth less because you've given yourself a lower rating. So giving yourself a lower rating never ever helps you, if that makes sense. Giving yourself a higher rating sometimes could hurt you, but the amount it's going to hurt you isn't going to be much because they're just going to toss out the rating essentially. They're going to ignore it. But it could help you, especially if your boss is an idiot and has no idea what you're doing. Then you just give yourself a 10 across the board. And there's plenty of bosses that don't want to do reviews, and they're in the corporate structure and they say, well, whatever they give on the self rating, that's what we just take that as what it is. And they stack rank you, right, in the stack rank system, and they base it off of your own self-evaluation. So in that case, it can only help you. So that's why I would err on the side of giving yourself a much higher rating than what you would modestly do. This is not the time to be modest, right, or humble, because you're being asked, again, like I said, it's like you've got a knife and you're being asked to cut off as much of your hand as you would like. So like I said, I trim the fingernails. If you want to cut off your fingers, go ahead, but don't blame me. All right, if you like this video, click that subscribe button below if you haven't already, and I will talk to you next time. Take care.